This week on the Minding Your Business podcast, automation, agents, and the entrepreneur's efficiency problem. Welcome to the Minding Your Business podcast. I'm CJ Jolliffe with some guy with glasses.
Yeah. Oh, that's Aaron Gerald. Glad to be here.
I'm switching things up now because I feel like for so long it was like everybody's favorite co-host. And so I just feel like we need a season of it just being different every time. And
okay.
So,
I appreciate it.
I wasn't a very good one tonight this time, but next time I'm gonna make a list. You're not gonna know what the list is,
but I do have glasses on, so
it's true.
It's apt. It's very, very accurate.
Well, a couple episodes ago, you had the interesting hat. I would call it like a newsboy hat. You know.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
I call it an old man hat. But yeah, I do dig that hat. I didn't wear it today just because I'm trying to present a little more professional. I got an Untuck It shirt, which is nice. It's stretchy. I'll tell you, I don't know that I ever want to go back to a suit shirt that isn't stretchy.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Like
it's the shoulders, right? You know,
and when you sit down, it kind of puckers and it does a whole thing, and which I don't care for. Funny story. I was recording yesterday, or being Bernard, and I'll explain a little bit more about that again. But I wore my microphone home, and I didn't notice. And so my wife's like, "You wore your mic home?" And I'm like, "Oh man!" So I did. I got it back to the office, which
that's hilarious.
Is like a 10% chance that mic was ever coming back to the office once it was gone. And I was like, oh my gosh. I had to put it in an envelope, put it in my bag, and then write myself a note. So it alerted me when I got here to take it out of the thing, put it back in the charger.
Oh my gosh.
So it's now in the charger and I'm good to go. But speaking of recording, I made a transitional video.
Yes.
Between season 1 and season 2. And I'm taking a chance.
Okay.
With the Being Bernard series, if you will, the channel that I was doing making fun. Because I got a little bored and it started to feel like work, and I didn't want that. I just wanted it to be fun. So I decided, you know what? Realistically, Bernard is sort of a reflection of me anyway. Like I had to say that. It's sort of a reflection of a part of my personality, as were all the other characters that I put into the thing. And I thought, man, what would I typically do when I get bored? I get a new certification or a new license or a new something, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I have so friggin' many. And I thought, let's give him a career change. Like, let's try it. And then I thought, you know what? Every season, I'll just have him change careers.
Yeah.
It's pretty believable. Anybody that knows me, I'd be like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, absolutely.
So this season, he's something different. So last season, he started out as a therapist, which ultimately morphed into a life coach. But and the reason for that is because I was getting kind of blacklisted because therapy, when I was presenting myself as a sarcastic, crass, dry, funny, humorous therapist, YouTube needs to be careful what it allows when somebody's looking up therapists. They don't want somebody that's giving bad advice, which I absolutely was doing a satire on bad advice. And so it wasn't getting shown near as much as when I switched it over to dry life coach skits. I started getting a lot more traction and it started going. And then I was like, now I've added too many characters and I've locked myself into this thing. I don't like it. And so I just stopped making it, which wasn't a good idea. But now I feel like it's got new life. I made some changes. And so tonight, the season transitional video that explains the switch comes out. And then I've got it already, episode 1 for next week. I'm working on the script for episode 2, which I think is very funny. But we'll see if that translates. A lot of times what I have in my head, by the time I put it on paper, it's not quite as funny as it is in my head. And then when I shoot it, my timing is off because it's hard to be two people and have conversations and go back and forth and have the timing and the pacing land the jokes.
Yeah.
So that's tough without cuts or splices or whatever. And so there's a little bit of that in there. So it's not going to be as funny as it would be if I had someone behind the camera besides me doing it. So But anyway, I'm excited to see where it goes just for myself. And
Yeah.
if an audience finds me on YouTube, fantastic. But if they don't, well, then you're lost because I feel like it's funny and I'm going to put it out there.
Well, I
And
did
I know I
see
get
yeah,
distracted easily. And I had decided I'm not giving this up. I'm not going to give it up. It's just I needed a break and
yeah,
it's allowed me to kind of refocus. I still haven't dropped the program I was working on. I just needed a little bit of space because, as you know, I tend to hyperfixate
right,
and then run myself ragged. So now when I feel like, man, I'm a week away from just running myself into the ground and then throwing this in the trash. I now stop and then
yeah,
I take some time and I focus on something else. And before it starts to feel like work, I'm going to switch back. I'm hoping to get a week or two, maybe 3 weeks ahead on the
uh-huh,
Being Bernard so I can switch back over, take off the other stuff, finish that up. But I needed some time for that anyway because it needed to marinate. I was getting, or marinate. Yes, it
yes,
marinates in a marinade. Okay,
yeah,
so I needed it to marinate because I sometimes move faster than the idea can evolve. And I don't want to do that with this. I want to take this one very seriously. This is why I've said before, I'm giving myself a full year
yeah,
to get it done. And I feel like that's the smartest thing I've ever done. I usually go, it's a year's worth of work. I can get it done in 3 months. And then I do, but I've worked faster than the idea evolves. And so by the time I'm finished, I should have made changes that I didn't. And I'm like, well, it's
right.
too late now. It's not. It needed to have been done in order to work at the end. So that's where I'm at
Well,
with that.
you showed me the first episode, your first draft, or maybe it was
Um,
maybe not the first, but I saw a draft of the first episode,
right.
and I really liked the change. I think it's really smart to have a transition in there, a transitional episode that kind of explains what's happening.
Right.
I'm excited to see that transition episode because I haven't seen that.
Right.
Um, but it's funny that you say the whole thing like of getting to a point where like it just feels like work, and it's like I've got about a week left in this before I just kind of. I mean that's
Right.
a little bit how I've felt this week.
Okay.
Just for whatever reason, look, the first of the month is always a little tough,
Yeah.
because just that's when, doing a lot of billing and reporting and those kinds of things. And the
Right.
last 2 months, it's fallen on a Sunday, which I do not work on Sundays. Like, that is my hard and fast rule. If I have to put in a little time on a Saturday, like, sure, but I had to, I had no choice. Um,
Okay.
Eventually things will be completely automated where I don't have to do that, but we're not there yet.
Mm,
And so, Monday looked like it was a lot of reporting, a lot of changes to campaigns and those kinds of things.
right.
And then for whatever reason, things just kept getting pushed, kept getting I had a discovery call with a prospect, so that delayed some time, and basically went into Tuesday with very little things from Monday done.
Okay.
And then Tuesday, Meta ads went down. And then so,
Okay.
like, all this stuff happened. Then Wednesday, and I gotta be honest with you, like, this is me being vulnerable, which is not fun. But
Okay.
Wednesday and Thursday, like, getting up, I'm just like, "Do I want to? I don't
Mm,
know." I kinda like to just stay in bed, you know?
right.
Like just that close to just eating cereal and staying in my pajamas and playing video games.
Right.
But I also know that if I don't get up and I don't move and I don't take care of things, that it's just gonna be worse tomorrow. And so,
Yes.
here
It
we are Friday.
compounds for
It
sure.
just gets yeah, exactly.
Right.
There's like a really good statement like, "The best medicine for anxiety is action," or something along those lines. Um,
I haven't heard
saying
that,
that
but it
all wrong.
makes sense. I would
Yeah,
say
yeah.
absolutely.
So, like, here we are Friday. I kept putting one foot in front of the other, but my gosh, that thing of, like, tasks spilling over from today into tomorrow and all that
Uh-huh.
stuff is just ugh. I'm
Yeah.
so looking forward to, the weekend
Yeah, it's
because,
gonna give
man,
your
oof,
brain a fresh start because
yes.
once you push one thing to the day, then the full day you had is now over full and it's gonna just keep going until you reset.
Yeah.
You have to
And
do a
for
hard
real, like,
reset.
that's something I struggle with anyway. I always think that I can get more done in the span of a day than I actually can, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh,
Um,
I do know this
you know.
about you. Uh it goes back to that. It's an old Mark and Brian thing, but you are
Yeah.
definitely the overly optimistic time estimator. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
I am.
I find myself in that boat often. I'm getting better because I realize and recognize I am in fact that person. So I think to myself, yeah, that'll take me like an hour. And so then
Right.
when my wife goes, how long do you think this is going to take? I say 4 hours. And I usually run an hour over what I estimated to
Right.
her. I wish I was like, I'll just take whatever I think it's going to take me times four.
Yeah.
And it almost always takes times five. And I'm like, how am I that bad at estimating time? But it's because whatever the thing is, there's 10 things that have to be done before that thing. And ultimately,
Right.
that thing took me 60, 70 minutes.
Yeah.
But the other 400 minutes before that to get it ready, I don't put into I don't add that in for
Yeah.
whatever
Oh, no,
reason.
I
My brain
feel
just
it.
skips right over that.
Yeah. I mean, literally, so, I think it would have been Wednesday. I'm not sure what day it was. Again, this week's kind of a blur, but, I had to a task that should have taken me 15 minutes, and it really should have only taken me 15 minutes,
Right.
stretched to 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Basically, I was uploading financial documents and everything to an accountant, to their system, and
Right.
in the process of reviewing it as I'm uploading, I find a hole. Like, wait a minute, what's this transaction? And then 3.5 hours later, I had it all tracked down and taken care of. And that's
Yeah.
not, I mean, how you can't estimate for that, you know?
No,
Um,
no,
and
you
so it's
cannot.
just little things like that on top of then the previous day's work spilling over into it. And so
Yeah.
these are the joys of just, I think,
So
running a business, that
you
administrative trash. I just like, ugh, it's not
yeah,
fun, but you have to do it.
correct.
Um, so
So you kind of said two things. You know me. I pick and choose the words that I listen to. And I heard two things happen in what you just told me. Number one of the things that stood out was I can't wait because right now I have to do it because it isn't automated and I'm going to take care of that pretty soon. And then you swept right past it and then you moved on to the this task should have taken me 15 minutes. It simply needed to be uploaded. And I'm like, something you'd automate. And then you said, but that's when I noticed the flaw that took me 3.5 hours to fix before I finished uploading. And I'm like, imagine if you'd uploaded it in an automated format, it would have
right.
taken 15 minutes, not your 15 minutes, but 15 minutes for the automation to do it. And then it'd have been wrong.
Yeah. Well,
So,
hopefully, if it
which
had been
is
done,
why I think you don't yet have everything automated.
right.
And um, I don't know. This is one of those subjects that's got me itchy. So but I know I can't dive into it because I got to keep myself level headed.
Uh,
Um, and but it kind of comes back to that idea of automation and automating things. Are we talking about an if then kind of a thing, or are we talking about creating an agent? Because I know recently you've been talking about creating agents,
yes.
and I do know I just listened to a podcast about creating a swarm of agents
Right.
where you have all the agents do all of the stuff, and then before it initiates the task, you have a butthole manager. I don't know what you call it, like a jerk that goes, wait a minute,
Wait a
something's
minute.
wrong here,
Yeah.
and then audits it and finds the thing that's wrong, which would have saved that upload. But all it would have done then is just kick it over to you, kick it to the human to be like, hey, there's a problem that needs to be
Right.
fixed, and we can't fix it.
Right. Which, look, this would all would happen in real life if these were actually people too, right?
Mhm.
Mistakes can still happen, and
Right.
you do need to have some oversight. But yeah, speaking to like, you know, creating agents, AI. I mean, we talked about OpenClaw a few episodes ago.
Right.
I am still playing with that. I do have a working installation of OpenClaw. It's sandboxed, so it doesn't actually even have access to the internet right now. I'm just running a local LLM.
Okay.
So, but the
Mm.
reason I'm doing that, I'm taking baby steps
Okay.
because you can do a lot of things, but I want to make sure um,
You don't give them bank account information and calendar
Yes, yes,
rights until
yeah,
you're sure.
yeah.
Um,
But I can tell
so
you the two biggest things that I'm gonna go after are email management. So,
okay.
I'm gonna start with, like, give it access to my email, all the different email accounts, right? Um, and this is where I'm struggling with, is this one agent or is this several agents? One agent per business.
Yeah, huh?
Um, but regardless, and it gets to review the emails, but then also, like, it doesn't send emails, it just writes drafts and notifies me that there's a
Oh,
draft
gotcha.
to review. So,
Okay.
what I really, if I have a goal, is I want to be able to respond to any email that's like from a client in 15 minutes. Like, that is really, really ambitious.
Yeah,
Um, but I think it's possible. We could definitely do that with an autoresponder. You know,
sure.
I could create something that pulled from some canned responses, you know, and
Right.
do that right now. An immediate response like, "Great, we
Right.
received this. You know what? We'll get back to you later on. Blah blah blah, whatever it would be." And
Sure.
I just don't like. That's not how I want to do it. You know.
Right.
So email is probably the biggest pain point. I can also tell you that I spent 40 minutes writing an email that had 3 sentences in it on Monday.
Oh, I know you overthink every word.
I will give you that. And I am, yes, yes, you are right. But also it was like, the client was asking about, should we try this or this or this, you
Uh-huh.
know, and it was, there had to be, I had to do research before I could answer that question. I did not research in the sense like I didn't know what was happening. I just wanted to be able to use specific numbers.
Sure.
And so there was, it all took time. And I,
Uh-huh.
so
Whereas if you had
email
an
is,
agent that could go do that research, pop it into a summary, give it to you, and hey, here's ultimately what you've told me to is
yes,
the most important, based on this customer, this client. Here's what I suggest. Then you could go in, fine tune it, tweak it, make it yourself, and whoop,
yeah,
make it yours and send it. But
yeah,
that would have saved you a lot of time. You'd have
yes.
spent 5, 6 minutes on it versus
Well, that's the thing, like, looking at a draft of an email and then maybe changing, the one thing that I can say, because I've used I've used AI to write some emails, and it's great,
uh-huh.
but it always uses too many words.
Right.
It needs to be less words.
Right. I
And
know
my I
you like
actually
to speak very concisely, which is why I said you overthink every word because you're like, is there a way to say this in 8
less
words
words.
instead of
Mhm.
12 so that it can't be the more words there are in that sentence, the more opportunities for misinterpretation.
Yes.
So, I get it.
Yeah. So
Mm,
that's number 1 pain point. Number 2 pain point would just be, um, campaign analysis and reporting.
mhm.
Like, and
Okay.
that's a pretty low bar, but I wanna create an actual, like, flow where, Monday mornings, I get a report, and here's what's happening, here's the opportunities, here's what we could change. I don't want it to do it. I want some
Right.
agency, you know?
Yes.
Um, but those are kinda my 2 biggest pain points, and then think from there, um, it's just about little changes, but kind of going back to, like, the whole idea of, like, campaigns and emails, like, great example. The client was basically saying, like, so they're a studio, a fitness studio.
Okay.
Um, we have a lot of those.
Right.
That's kind of like the industry we're serving the most,
Right.
and they run a thing, in April where it's, like 30 days, like a 30-day challenge of working out every day, right? And
Right.
so what happens is when they bring new customers in, they get frustrated with not being able to book a class because it's all group workouts.
Okay.
And so she was basically like, "Hey, could we do this where um, we don't promote that piece for, like, bringing on new customers? Instead, we push, like, our one-on-one training." But in a previous conversation we had when we onboarded, their personal training, their one-on-one training was almost at capacity. And so they didn't really want to promote that because if they do, they need to hire more trainers. And
Right.
so remembering that, I'm like, do we want to promote something that you don't want to grow? And so basically my shift was, let's redirect the leads budget. Let's just drop it. Drop it to, like, 15% of what we're spending, 15, maybe 20. So it doesn't lose momentum, right?
Right.
Um,
You don't lose
and
that circle of clients, that
exactly. Well,
the
and
makeup
especially
of
like,
who they are, the makeup of the audience or
yeah,
potential
and we
audience
'cause we
that's gonna.
want it to continue to work and continue to find the right people. When you start pausing things, you lose momentum, and it's not
Uh-huh.
good. So let's keep it running, but at a low figure, and then reallocate those funds to an awareness campaign, and we'll run that awareness campaign for 30 days. And then after that, the next month, we'll take all of those people that we had previously, like
You're aware.
that are aware, and we'll retarget them when we shift funds back to the leads.
The
And so
deal.
it's just a balancing, right? We're reducing this one and bringing this other one up.
Right.
And but how do I can say that in, what did it take me, 45, 50 seconds to say that piece. It maybe take me longer, but
How
it
do you
takes,
write that?
how do you write that? And so another good example, like in talking with someone that I go to for business advice, he was like, have you thought about maybe just doing less emails, like making email like not the preferred way of communicating? Like, can they schedule a quick, video call with you? I'm like, that would be great. If I can get them to do that, that would be great, because we could do a 15-minute call, and that's going to be so much higher quality than email. Plus, what we're doing now is we have AI taking notes on all of our calls. So we can, when we walk away from a call, we get a
You have
summary
a
of
summary
everything that was said, and we have an actionable to-do list, which is my favorite thing because I don't have to write it down.
for
I don't have to
sure.
take notes. So that's another thing I'm looking into. Look, at the end of the day, this is the big, like, the efficiency problem in business. There's always going to be ways that you can become more efficient.
Right.
And it's such a big, if it's not resources, like if it's not dollars, saving you money, it's time. And that's where I'm at. I'm, you know, a little spread thin. But it's just about also putting the work in right now. You don't go from 0 to 100 without hitting all the numbers in between, right? So
Right.
this season, we'll say, is just a little bit of growing pain. I love it because this time last year, the business that, it's Looky Social, that I'm
Mhm.
experiencing all these growing pains in, didn't exist. So,
Right.
I mean, what a great problem to have. We were
Right.
literally still in the, like, I think we were in the branding phase this time last year. If even if that, we launched, our hard launch was at the beginning of summer, and it's just great to see how quickly that has grown. So
Right.
anyway, going back to like agent stuff, right?
Mhm.
So, in talking efficiency, I know in the past I've asked you, like, could you, use ChatGPT or something to work on your notes? Because I know your notes have to be in a specific format and everything for your clients. Uh,
Yeah. And that's my
you can't do that, can you?
no, that's my biggest anchor. That's the biggest thing slowing me down is writing the notes. And I keep getting hit up on like every platform, like the platform I use now for my notes. It's like, oh, by the way, take your microphone into your office, let the AI listen. It'll summarize everything and pre-fill out your notes for you. Then you just go in review, make a little bit of changes, and then you can submit them. And I don't know how comfortable I am doing that. But I'm on two platforms, one where I'm doing my California clients and one where I do my, um, where do I live now? Nebraska clients. And both of them offer that same service, but it's expensive every month. And I don't know, I'm just not that comfortable with them having uh, access inside where everything's supposed to be private. Like it's
Right.
supposed to be um not not accessible, not just like the only thing written down is my notes, which is my interpretation clinically of what took place in that office.
Right. Right.
And I have to write it in a way that justifies the billing to the insurance. So, okay. But I feel like I don't want them having an ear inside the office. And then let's say we don't know, like, we don't know, you don't know what you don't know. And so it
Right.
could be their employers like, oh, we need transcripts of all of the things to find out. And then they find
Yeah.
out that we had talked about them considering getting another job. And they're like, oh, well, we don't want an employee like that, even if it wasn't
Right.
that. So
Right.
I don't need that happening. But I
Well,
would
there's
like help writing my notes and just getting them in order just to speed things up. And so I've been toying with the idea, or at least the hypothetical idea of creating an LLM, is
Mhm.
that right?
Yes,
Putting
large
it and
language model.
self-hosting it on a computer that doesn't have access to the internet,
Right.
completely HIPAA compliant, password protected, and locked behind two doors. So it meets HIPAA.
Yeah.
And then all I do is I give my verbal notes, like a basically my summary of what took place. Then it breaks that summary down into the parts of where I need to input the things on the specific form for the specific insurance or whatever, because
Yeah.
they're all a
Yeah. Yeah.
little different. So I just have it kind of break up what I put in there into that. I'd
Yeah.
love to be able to do that. It would save me a ton of time. And I could teach it to put it on there. Then I could just go in, review, and be like, no, 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 it wasn't that. It was their kid's birthday, not their birthday, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And then do it, and then that way I could get those submitted. It would save me a lot of time, a lot,
Yeah.
because that's my biggest hurdle
Yeah.
is doing the notes.
Well, I first of all, to get, encourage you, this is totally doable. So you could probably do it different ways, but my first thought would be running something like OpenClaw
Right?
using Olama, and then there's a few different large language models that you can actually use, through Olama. It can all be completely self-hosted, and the computer can have access to the internet, but you can lock down the actual agent in OpenClaw where it doesn't have access. Um,
Oh, okay.
so, and all you would need to do is basically train that agent in how you want things formatted.
Right.
Give it examples, um, and then you should be able to dump in your notes or speak in your notes and it can handle all that stuff for you. It'll all be secure, HIPAA compliant, like you said, locked behind all the things.
Right.
Um, I mean, I think that's a great use case. And I mentioned this, but it may have been off the mic. Uh,
Mhm.
I, I see this being a really large growth industry. Like what you're
Oh,
talking about, like wanting a custom LLM, right?
I have
And
a use for well, I say two, but I think the next one I want is a swarm. Just after
Mhm.
listening to the podcasts and information on it, what's latest out there is
Yeah.
you don't confuse one LLM with, oh, this is what you do in this case, but then this is what you do over here after you've done that. Instead, you just say, this is what you do, and you put it here. And then
Right.
the other language model grabs it out of that little chest or box or form or whatever, and then uses it and then pops it back into the next thing. And so it just kind of goes down this line of stuff, and then you have somebody double check it, and then boop,
Yeah.
and then I'm the human at the end that makes sure everything is right. I
Right.
want that because I don't have time to do the other four steps. I know how to do them, I just don't. And it's soul draining. So, like
Yes.
for instance, with my idea to sell or promote my um, couples course
Mhm.
to churches and counseling groups and different nonprofits, and I want to be able to put it out there because I think it makes a lot of sense. And a lot of couples have been like, dude, I love the idea of just labeling and identifying which stage I'm in. As soon as I name it, then it has less power over
Yeah.
whatever. I don't need to get into what it is, but that I don't want to have to like look up. Okay, well, how many nonprofit centers have that? I just want the LLM to search those, or how many churches in this area have couples groups that could use another curriculum to fill in for the fall of 2026. I
Yeah.
don't want to have to look that up, but I
Right.
would love to have something else look it up for me and go, hey, here's a list of 10 places. And look, I've got you scheduled on the schedule for a call. And then I go, great. Then I call them, we go over it. They say they're interested or they're not, and we move on.
Yeah.
that I
Well,
could really, really, really use.
again, and
So
this is where you create different agents within your setup, right? For different
right. I
purposes.
feel like that would need to be mapped out for sure on a big
Mhm.
whiteboard. Well, because
But people
I'm
people are
very
doing that.
tactile and
I've
read
seen
it.
multiple people that they're creating, like one agent is going out and scraping the internet locally, looking for local businesses that have bad websites. So they go and find the local business's website, and if it,
Look at it and go,
grades it like on a grade, 1 to 5 on the quality, and anything
right.
that's below it, like a 3 or below, gets then put into this sequence, and they go through and the agent is actually going and soliciting them. We'll see how. Here's the thing.
Well, it
That's a
does.
cold email, all this stuff, and so
Uh,
it's probably not going to work real well. But it
Dude,
costs
if it hits
zero.
2, 3% and
Yeah,
it's going out and finding 100 a month, that's 2 to 3 warm clients that are like, "Yeah, I'm interested in talking to you." That's all you
right.
need.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
depending on
mean,
your business, but ultimately, like if I had that given to me every month, oh my gosh,
yeah.
I would have plenty. Because I was talking with my wife, we were talking about it, and I'm like, I need one to go out and talk to. Well, actually, I need it to go and solicit 100 so that 20 are like, I'm interested in learning a little bit more. And then of those, they learn a little bit more, and two go, okay, let's talk. If I had two a month, I'd be too busy. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. So I needed to not be that. I needed to be like more like one every 2 months.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, with that low a bar, I should be able to build something that can do that for me. And me and uh my fragile ego, I don't want to listen to 98 no's
Right.
to hear one yes. And now
Yeah.
if I talk to two people that are interested in hearing what I have to say and one of them goes, now's not the time for me, I'm like, I gotcha. And then I talk to the next person and they're like, this really isn't a good time. What if we talk in 6 months? I can handle that.
Yeah.
But handling 98 no's before that makes me cynical and irritable by the time I
Right.
talk to them. And I'm like, sure, we'll talk in 6 months. Like, then I'm a jerk. So I don't need that jadedness
Yes.
if I don't need it. Like the LLM going to be like, yep, that's what I figured. Click next. Okay, great. And the beauty of it is that if somebody's already said they're not interested, it logs their information and puts it on a do not recontact list.
Right. Yeah.
Now I'm not a jerk for calling them back.
Yeah.
So
Like,
that's
if you look
beautiful.
at,
I
like,
would really like to have a list that's like, hey, these 18,000 companies in the whole United States, do not contact them because they've already said
right.
they're not interested. But
Right.
here's 200 that are. Okay, dude, I'll tell you, if I get 200, it's that's way enough work for me. I'll probably have to hire a few people.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, sales is just math. It's just numbers,
Mhm.
and people that understand that, and they know that they're going to close 6% of people they reach out to, they just know they need to reach out to more people, right? And
Right.
so that math works all along that that nurturing process where you go
Yeah.
from lead to client. There are different
Right.
stages, different stage gates, we'll say,
Mhm.
where
Right.
okay, 15% of the people will go through here, and proceed. 30% will go and proceed from here to there, right? And so you just know your math, and you can work backwards from, I want one new client a month. I can't handle
Uh-huh.
two. One and a half is my number, actually. I need one and a half new clients every month. So then you
Yeah,
you
I
know
need
that, and then you can
one
do the
every 6
math.
weeks,
Yeah,
and then you
you
can
just do
do
the
it.
math the way, reverse up the funnel, and then that tells you how many people you should be reaching out to.
Yeah,
You know,
80
it
or 180.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So
it
that's
actually
what I would
reminds me
like to
of.
do, but it's also like, let's say that the number is 180. If I reached out to 180 client or people, potentials, I wouldn't have time to service the one client I did get.
Right.
And so then there's I'm being held up. Like I could never grow. I would never
Yeah.
be able to scale. So it makes sense to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I need 4 clients before I could hire a person to do the sales for me. But I can never
Yes.
get to the 4 because I'm always servicing the one or helping the one, and I can't get to that big.
Yeah.
So yeah, uh, it's nice
Well,
to
so you
be
need to start
alive
with
in this space where there's an opportunity to do it yourself
Mhm.
with tools.
Right.
There's a learning curve to the tools.
There is. Yeah.
So
And
anyway,
at the
I'm glad
same
to be with
time, you
somebody
don't
who's at
need to
least
be the person
as
that sets it up.
interested in it as me.
Right. But like, this goes back to um you need to work on your business, right? Obviously, you're a therapist, you also have to work in it, right? But you don't have to be the person that sets up the create has to learn all about how to create your own custom LLM that's local and sandboxed from
Right,
the rest of the world. That is, I mean, literally, that's what we're looking at, like at Infinity Systems, right? So
right,
we do web development, but for a long time, automations, that's the systems part of it, right? Like,
right.
and like I've talked a little bit, I can't talk a lot about it, but built a system for a business owner that made, well, in my time with him, well over $2 million
Right.
was the top line revenue, and had a very, very low operating cost. And it worked across a network that we built of like 26 websites. And, you know,
Right.
one of my more proud moments, you know, because
Mhm.
I sat back and watched this all happen. I would watch Stripe, the payment processor,
Choom,
daily.
choom, choom,
Just
choom. Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun just watching that. Um, but that was all automations. It was built on the backbone. It was, WordPress websites, and there was some stuff in there that, but we made a very efficient um,
System.
process that allowed him to run that business with two employees.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, you could do crazy math and just consider like, how much an employee costs and the top line revenue. And, anyway, all that stuff is automations. And so I've been doing that stuff since, I don't know, 2018, something like that.
Right.
I feel very, very confident in my automations, but now it's like we're looking at that opportunity as Infinity Systems going like, okay, maybe it's more than automations. Maybe now we start getting into agentic work. Maybe we start doing custom LLMs. And I say that maybe because like I don't need another thing to do.
Right.
In fact, if I go down this path, I will I can't touch it. I
You
can't be
have
the
to
person that does
outsource.
it. I'm doing
Right.
the research now so that I can understand it and so I can speak the
Speak
language, right?
intelligently. Yes, yes.
Exactly.
I think you have to
But
know enough of the foundation so that you're not getting steamrolled when you do
when
hire somebody,
right.
because
Yeah,
there's not a lot of people out there that know even the basics. So there are people who know one step ahead of you who could sound impressive and not be able to actually pull off what you need done because you need somebody who's at least intermediate, not a beginner.
exactly.
So
And it's hard, how do you who is this person? Because all this is all very emerging technology,
right. So the
so
likelihood that somebody's going to fake it is very high. So you got
right.
to be able to judge that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Luckily, I have a couple
understand.
people in mind, that would be really, really good fits for this kind of thing. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens with them, and what
Sure.
happens with the industry and all the stuff, but,
Yeah.
um, I'm using a lot of, self-control
Yeah.
to not just spin up this
Oh,
product or service. It's very
dude. I know.
it's difficult.
You know what? I like that so much of what I'm dealing with. Maybe it's this stage of my life. Maybe it's, I don't know. But I feel like I get a lot of support from you because you're mirroring much more successfully, but you're
Oh, it's the same
mirroring
thing.
so much of the battles that I go through, like
Yeah.
trying to stay keep
Focused.
the
Stay
reins in and
focused.
stay
Yeah.
focused,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not go, oh my god, this idea. Yes, there there are. If I had a book, which I have a notebook, but if I had a notebook with all of my ideas
Yeah.
that are $1 million ideas, I'd be a billionaire right now.
Right.
It isn't the idea, it's the execution of that.
Execution. Yeah.
And I've been misexecuting most everything that I come up with because I do the whole run and then trip and fall and go screw it and then walk back and then go, I have a better idea anyway. Yeah, probably it is a better idea. But either way, that idea would have worked if I'd have kept going. And I just don't. So this year, the year 2026 is the year of self-control.
Mm. But I mean, first of all, great. And I applaud you for that. Right. And I'm also exercising that self control. Right. But,
Mhm.
this reminds me of, I think it's chapter 4, it might be chapter 5 of the book that we're writing,
Mm.
where you can't not there's no such thing as doing it alone,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And I'm looking at this process like I can't do this alone. That's why I'm looking
Right.
at a couple people I have in mind, right?
Right.
But the reason you have this sprint because you're excited about the idea.
Right.
And then what happens is you put time into it,
Huh?
and your expectation of success and reality of success aren't aligned
Sure.
because you're doing it alone,
Correct.
that it
And I
steals the
knew by
wind
that
from your
point,
sails.
and by this point, I needed to have been so excited that I got some people on board. And when no
Yes.
one gets on board, then I'm like, well, never mind. And
But
then I
see,
leave
that
because
makes all the difference.
I know I can't do it's like trying to, those boats, those long ones where everybody's rowing. I, I'm never going to win the race rowing it by myself. I got to get
Right.
people on there.
Right. And that's again like, and they don't even have to be on payroll, right? It could just
Right.
simply be someone that's in your support system, right? It's going to
Right.
encourage you when you lose the inspiration and motivation and you need the discipline, right?
Right.
You need a little bit of encouragement from them. But also I think
The
if you do have
accountability.
people,
Yes.
yeah, accountability. That's what I was going to say. Like if you have people that'll keep you accountable, even if that's not necessarily their job, but if you bring someone into a partnership or as an employee or whatever, you have to keep going.
Right.
You really have no choice, you know?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that becomes a positive pressure, I think.
Right.
But I guess it depends on how it could be negative.
It
Um,
could be. Yeah. Yeah.
but
I
they
know.
also like end up creating this team. Like we're in this together, right? And you know how what's the old saying? Like two heads are better than one.
Mhm. Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that there's a lot of truth to that. And it's beyond just even the ideation, but trying to figure out ways through. I mean, being in business is an endless opportunity to solve problems because as soon
Yeah.
as you solve this problem that's right in front of you right now, great, that's fixed. What's the next problem? If it's not there, it's coming and you'll have another
Right.
opportunity to solve that problem. That's really, I
Right.
think, all a business owner is a problem solver.
Yeah.
Um, and hopefully you make it out of the phase where you're just constantly putting out fires,
Right.
but
Yes,
it is a
for
part of it.
sure. Man, I heard recently on I don't know, some stupid social media thing. But the message was really, really good. It was about something completely different, but I'm going to apply it over here anyway, because that's the way my brain works.
Sure.
Um, it's like in business, there's me, I'm one. And if I have to bring somebody else in on it, it isn't two of us now, it's 11 because one and one is 11. So it's a multiplier. If you have somebody else doing something, they're not just doing that thing for you now. They're
Yeah.
doing that thing for you potentially better than you would have done it. And it frees you up to do something else.
Yeah.
So they may be doing those little mundane tasks that draw you away from the profit part of the business. Because we all know 20% makes 80% of the money. 80% of your work brings in 20% of your money. So you
Right.
pawn off the 80% of the work over here
Yep.
and you just focus on the money, the part that brings in the money, brings in the revenue, brings in and generates profit to
Yeah.
afford you to be able to get more people to keep going. And I think it is a multiplier. It doesn't work like we
It's
think.
not
It's
one
not
for
like,
one.
oh, it's
Yeah.
just one and one is two. And so
Yeah.
no, it's not. It's not that at all. But
Yep.
it isn't one times one because that's still one. So it's not that. It's really one and one is 11 because that's what a one and a one is.
Yeah. It's an exponential thing.
Uh huh.
It actually reminds me, what you're talking about reminds me of the book that I read a couple months ago. Um, Buy Back Your Time by
Okay.
Dan Martell, I believe. And that's one of the things like his big push to business owners is your first hire has got to be an admin assistant. to take all of that stuff, the stuff that I'm literally
Busy
talking
work.
about that's stealing my soul,
Yes.
and take it off of your plate. Um, and he's like, it's not a one to one, like, oh, no, okay, now you have 20 hours back a week. It's that 20 hours that you freed up from your schedule, like that is such a huge investment because it's
Mhm.
as the visionary, as the entrepreneur, the leader, it frees up your mind to
Yeah,
focus on the
it's like
growth,
adding
not
40 hours.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
because
so
you're not being having your soul sucked dry, and then you have to try and rebound to start again.
yeah,
There's none of the rebound. You're just
yeah.
starting from 0 and moving up. It's
Which,
totally
by
different.
the way, I do have a plan in place. I have a schedule in place. We're just again, we gotta go from that point 0 to 100. Like I just have to get there first based
Right?
on all my projections. And I'm like, ugh, I'm saying this because I'm giving it life and
Uh-huh.
accountability. So
Right.
based on all my projections, I think that's going to happen midsummer. So
Okay.
that financially should get to the point where I feel comfortable doing it. Because here's the other thing: like if I hire someone, that's a commitment,
Right.
So I need peaks and valleys to be smoothed out, and I need to feel confident in where revenue is going to be
Right.
able to bring someone on. I've done it in the past where it was more of like where I didn't have that mindset.
Right.
And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad.
Right.
I can tell you like in a production environment, man, it's so good because you're basically buying billing hours at wholesale and reselling them at retail is great as long as you have the leads coming in and the sales system to close those leads.
Right.
But trying to the tough part about that really is the admin assistant because I'm sitting here like I've done it, going and hiring someone for production. They make themselves money. Like they pay for
Uh-huh.
themselves. Um,
Right.
a salesperson pays for themselves, right? But an
Uh-huh. The
admin
admin
assistant,
assistant frees you up to make more money
right? You have
cover
to
for them and yourself. So it
exactly.
takes that extra commitment from you to utilize the hours you bought back productively.
Mm, yes, and again, that goes back to positive pressure. Like,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
mentioned this before the call, like just kind of going back to the whole like, man, I don't know, I wasn't really feeling it this week. Um,
Right.
yeah, it takes a certain amount of pressure for me to be productive and to work
Right.
efficiently. But that's a fine margin until I get to the amount of pressure where I then seize up. I think of it kind of like an
Mhm.
engine. It takes a certain amount of compression, you know, a certain amount of like uh explosiveness to get the
Uh-huh.
engine started.
Right.
But if there's too much, if that ratio is too high, the engine seizes up or blows a valve.
Right.
And so it feels like the same kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But again, like I celebrate, it's Friday, and
Mhm.
I put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, you made it
I'm
through the
reading.
week.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
think of it this way, because I had to bring this up with a couple of clients this week. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here, but um, they were saying how this was a really, really hard week.
yeah,
And I was like, no, it wasn't. This was a really, really great educational learning experience
yeah.
because you got to learn what doesn't work and
Right.
what works. And you learned a lesson now that you now know for all the weeks to come. You don't have to continue to relearn it unless you don't consider it a learning experience. You just consider it something hard you had to go through.
Mm,
Because then when it starts to happen again the next week, you didn't learn the lesson to apply it to make this one go much more smoothly. You just get to keep reliving that same problem over and over and over.
mm. Groundhog Day.
Yeah. And so I'm like, no, this was a good week.
Yeah.
If you think of it as an educational experience, man, this was a good week. It was
Look at you talk about mindset stuff,
an
man.
uncomfortable week, sure.
Yeah,
That
for sure.
growth is uncomfortable
That's right.
because you're
Yeah.
having to stretch and expand. Like it's not going to be comfortable. And I often use it like if you think of it as a knife, knives are okay. Sharp knives are really good,
Hmm.
but they didn't become sharp by being treated gently. They got sharp by being ground against a stone and having all
Yeah.
the part that needed to come off so
Yeah.
that their sharp edge could then be utilized.
Yeah.
So really, no, you need an uncomfortable week. You are being sharpened. So
Yeah.
now go out and cut smoother next week.
That's good. That's a good analogy. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to use analogies. You know that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, and it's like, you can go into all the like, the unneeded things, the portion of the blade that's it gets,
all the
you know,
stuff in your life that's
shaved off
keeping you
basically.
from
Yeah.
being as good as you can be. Yeah.
And like you couldn't do any of that without friction. Right? What is
Right.
friction? It's resistance, like it's really good.
Yeah, and you're hanging on to it for dear life, right? It needs to be ground off and scraped up.
Yes.
You wouldn't just let
Oh
go of
man.
it if it was easy, it would already be gone.
Yeah. You could also go into like analogy for like grapes, right? So, grapes, grapevines need to be pruned to produce good fruit. If you just let them
Uh-huh.
go wild, they don't produce fruit. They produce a lot of leaves, but that's just flowery and it doesn't give good fruit. So there has to be a lot of order in that grapevine to produce good fruit. And so that pruning process of cutting off the shoots and stuff that
Right.
they don't need, just too many shoots won't just be leaves, right? It won't be um,
Right.
good fruit, is painful to if I guess if vines felt pain, like, it would say it's not fun, right? It would
Right.
say to the vine dresser like, ouch, please stop, right?
Uh-huh.
And so that process though of pruning, of creating order, of setting on the trellis, that helps the vine create good fruit, better fruit, bigger fruit, fuller fruit. I don't
Sorry,
know.
you know my brain. I'm like, I love that analogy. If you look at it, the pruner is your business coach,
Mhm.
and he's helping you prune away the 80% of wasted time that you spend thinking you're growing. Look at me. Look how busy
Yeah.
I am. Look at all
I'm
this
busy.
stuff. Look at all
Yeah.
this leaves. Look at all this growth. And it's like, that's not the fruit of the
Right.
vine. Like, prune
Right.
all that off, get rid of it. Now focus on the important part.
Yes.
So, yeah, interesting.
That's good stuff,
Uh,
man. That's good stuff.
yeah. Anyway, all right. I
Well,
know we are getting tight on time.
we are.
I got a clock now, and I'm trying to do better at
Hey.
paying attention to time. Um, I think we covered just about everything we wanted to cover.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think so.
I think
Yeah.
so too.
Well,
Oh, yeah, but what about next week?
next week we have a guest. Is going to be, I don't want to give it away. But basically someone that's in the marketing space, similar to, some stuff that I do, marketing and web development space. It tends to be a, a theme around here. But I think there's a reason for that. Right. And so
Yeah.
he is doing really, really well in his space. And I'm encouraged just seeing what's happening, in his business. And so
Right.
we're going to have him on and it'll be a good conversation. And he's just great to talk to anyway. So it should be fun.
Cool.
And yeah, I'm excited for it. Um, I know I know it's been a while since we've had a guest. We get a lot of solicitations for guests, and most of it is not stuff that we're interested in. But
Right.
literally before the podcast, we came up with a standard operating procedure for how we
Or
vet
potentially
guests that are
filtering.
reaching out
Huh?
to us. And so I am so excited um, that we have that. I'm going to put that in place, and we
Yeah,
just
I
need to
think
work
that
on.
vetting system will pay off dividends because then we won't be wasting time with guests where we're like, oh, we don't even want them on the show.
Right.
Whereas when we find the right ones, we're gonna be like, that's them. Let's
That's
bring them
them.
on.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
who the audience needs to hear. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm excited. Um,
Do we want to give any kind of like? Do you want to say anything about the book?
no,
Like we? Okay. All right. We're gonna leave it
no,
alone. All right.
no. I mean,
I want to.
anybody that's an avid listener, they know that the book is
Mhm.
coming. We touched on it a little when we
Oh,
talked about chapter 5, but yeah, it's
it's
getting
it's
really close,
painful.
and it is
Yeah, it's so
getting
close.
ah,
Yeah. But I tell
man.
you what,
I
like I'm proud of what we're putting together. So,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. I would say I'm really feeling good about all of the extra energy and effort to polish it before we put it out. Because I
Yeah.
think it was plenty fine. We could have already done it. But I feel like
Fine.
the
Oh, I
extra
hate that word
time,
though.
I feel like the extra time is going to make it worthy of the read by the reader.
That's it. Right. Yeah. Is
And
it
so
worth the time invested in it? You know?
yeah, and it's funny because none of my children are entrepreneurs, but I think to myself, is is what I'm doing good enough that I would tell my child if they asked me what would be important to know to be an entrepreneur, I would say you have to read this. And
Right.
that's what I'm looking to produce. It's what I
Yes.
did when I wrote the book on um breaking the loop that you're stuck in and how to like make your relationship better. I'm
Yeah.
going to be proud. My kids read that in their relationships, man, they're going to have way better, easier relationships in work, in personal life, in romantic life, like all the way around. And so,
Yes. And since you explained the whole loop process, I am seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing it in my own beyond like relational things, right? I'm
oh yeah,
seeing it when stress comes in. Here's a trigger,
uh-huh.
there's the
There's the
launch, right?
launch, there's the
And then
overload,
here's
starts the
where do I want
overload.
to go
Oh,
from
it's
there? And
always
like,
happened. Uh-huh.
yeah, just the fact that I'm like, I'm seeing that pattern now. I'm going like, I get to like identify this and stop that loop, you know,
Yes.
whether it's
You
worrying
take
or whatever.
so
Oh,
much control of your life, and it's so strange because and we'll talk about this next week. Man, my mind was blown. I was listening to a PhD psychologist who basically was explaining the loop in a different way.
okay.
And I was like, oh, but the loop applied to physiology, not to psychology. And I was like,
Okay.
holy crap. It opened up my brain where I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm going to have to start talking to my clients about this. And I really want to talk to you about it, but we don't have time today.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
don't let me forget next week.
Okay.
It's right in line with what you said, where you're like, man, I'm able to like start identifying and labeling it and like figuring out which phase I'm in or which part or stage of the loop I'm in. Like I see it happening in
Yeah.
all these other aspects of life. And there really is something to the identification process, which we'll talk about next time, that is going to make you go, wait, what? Yeah,
Nice.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
I
Looking
can't
forward
wait
to
to
it. Well,
tell you.
it's probably not gonna be next time because we have our guests, but
No,
but
no, no, no.
2
Yeah,
weeks.
the next time
It's
we talk about this. So
But
don't
I'm
let
gonna
me
write it
forget.
down.
2 weeks away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will have talked about it with 40 more people by then anyway, so I'll be much
Right.
better at articulating it in my own brand, you know,
Yeah. Yep.
um,
Yep.
because, you know, my bias kicks in and I start to tweak and tweak and tweak, and my brain attaches a bunch of other things and it becomes something else. So I'm excited to share that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm looking forward to it.
awesome. Well, next
Well,
week
this
I
is
can't
it.
wait to pick his brain. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's gonna be value in for us and for everyone else too. So
I think so.
um yeah. Well, thank you for your time today, Mr. Gerald. And
You
until
too.
next week, mind your business. Hey, thanks for listening to the Minding Your Business podcast. Your hosts are Aaron Gerals and me, CJ Jolliffe. If you want to find out more about us or when we're going live or follow us on socials, just go to our website, mybpodcast.com. And again, thank you so much for listening.